strategically. I can get it right. I'm gonna go where the winners go. 'Cause Ellen ain't an option, no, it ain't in my blood.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Mondays Beyond the Mic. This is the place where we look at relationships to provide a better understanding for both men and women so we can learn and grow together. We want to say thank you to our regular viewers, and we want to say welcome to our new viewers. And what do we ask? I ask that you like, share, and subscribe and give us super chats, as this one gesture means much to Mondays Beyond the Mic and Bravo with Sheila Network. And when you give us those likes, when you go just like that, what it does is it pushes the show further into these YouTube streets. And what we know is the information that is given here on Mondays Beyond the Mic is life changing. Someone say life changing. So we have a disclaimer. We share from our personal experiences, but tonight, I have renamed him the financial doctor. We have on tonight, as we're going to talk about finances. But I also want to give you some house rules. What are our house rules? Respect, respect. I would like to state that if disrespect is displayed in the chat or on the platform, individuals will be silenced and removed from the show. So many of you may be thinking to yourselves, like, where's Lady Dawn B? She is coming. But we're going to see who's talking to us in the chat. So we want to say hello to some folks before we reintroduce Mr. Hunt. So Anae says, hey, at Bravo with Sheila Network. We say, hey, Anae. She said, hey, Dr. Elaine. Hi, Anae. And she said, Lady Dawn B. So we know she is on her way. And Angela Dawson said, hey, sister in love. That is my sister in love all the way from Florida. So thank you for watching. And Anae said, hey, at Angela Dawson. So thank you for joining us. And tonight, if you were with us last week, you know we were like blown away. I was totally blown away. And we want to take this month to talk about finances. I'd said last week, and I'll state again, the month of August, a lot of times 8 represents the number of new beginnings. And it also represents introspection and self-assessment. So tonight we're doing What's in Your Wallet Part 2. What's in Your Wallet Part 2. If you missed it last week, you missed an absolute treat. I promise you. If I were you, I would go back and watch last week's show, because I know it's not good English, but it's going to get gooder and gooder. I will tell you that, because Mr. James Hunt is in the building, and he brings a wealth of financial expertise. And we're just excited to have you with us again. So welcome to the show, Mr. Hunt.
Dr. Elaine, thank you for inviting me back, and I'm looking forward to chatting with your audience again this evening.
Well, again, I was going to say again, thank you, because I believe that this information that we're giving is not just for us, but this is for generations. Like, how do we correct some generational things that we have dealt with? And I call them, sometimes I think we have financial trauma, right? I believe sometimes because maybe we did not have that. Now that if we have, we don't understand the dynamics of the future. Many of us. Hey, Lady Dawn B, how are you?
Happy Monday. I'm good. How is everyone? Welcome back, Dr. Hunt.
Thank you.
He is the doctor. Absolutely. And just some takeaways before we dive in. It was like, what are some like lessons? So I want to say, like, Lady Dawn, thinking about last week and reflecting, what was some takeaways or anything that you implemented, even in the chat? If you were on with us last week, was there something that you said, this was this nugget or jewel, and I I'm implementing this?
Well, the first thing that stuck with me was get in the habit of paying yourself first. That was one of the main things. The other thing was the learn, earn, and I can't think of the third one off the top of my head, but I know it.
Return,
Return.
return.
There you go. There you go. And it was a lot of information. It was a lot of good, necessary information. Definitely wake up call. That really just, even if you don't jump into applying those things right away, I think that can be good because you do need to pause to reflect for the information that you receive so that you can come up with a realistic plan about what you heard and how am I going to implement it. Because I don't want to start implementing it and then get discouraged and fall off. So I really have to think about what can I really handle right now and what does that look like for me. So, those two were two of the main things that I've stuck with or stuck with me.
Okay. I will say definitely the learn, earn, return, the drop the zeros, and the four-legged stool. Those things made me say, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. One more thing. I'm still looking for a roommate. I need a roommate. So, um, I need a roommate. I need a roommate. So, with that being said, we just want to jump in. And I mean, I don't know if it's something you want to say, Dr. Hunt, before we get started. Yep, you're Dr. Hunt. Um, but we do have some questions that we want to ask. And we tell people in the chat, feel free to ask your questions as well, because this is a show where we want to learn and grow together. So, Mr. Hunt.
Thank you. Um, yeah, let's start off with the questions. Um, how do we
Okay.
break how do we break generational cycles and families living from paycheck to paycheck? What's the first move to break that cycle? Probably is have a family meeting.
Mm,
And parents need to talk about what they're going to do and what they're expecting of their children. Now, if they're young adults, what they're expecting of young adults. That would be one thing. The second thing is I've talked to a number of families that started an investment club. And that's been important. In fact, even some churches that I've attended, when they asked me to speak, they had an investment club in the churches, and they joined this organization. I don't even know if it still exists, but they sent you out magazines and guides on how to get going, and the people would set up $50 a month they would have to save, or 75, whatever is comfortable for folks, and they put it in a pot, and once they got enough money, they would start investing in stocks. Maybe it was a J&J or a McDonald's or an IBM or something that they know, and that is stable, and so they can get their feet wet with just the discipline and reading. Some folks were getting subscriptions to the Wall Street Journal. In fact, back in the day, I used to buy the Wall Street Journal for children and give it to an elementary or middle school teacher. And I don't even know if they have that anymore, but it had a Wall Street Journal for kids. And that was really great. First of all, it helped the teacher with the lesson plan because they even had a lesson plan in there. And so there's a lot of little things that you can do, but you have to be intentional about it. You need to discipline yourself, and you got to say, "Hey, I'm getting out of this cycle," and it's tough when you started with bad habits. It's tough to continue with those and make and break those habits. In fact, they said it takes around 21 days to break a bad habit, and but yeah, that's what I would do. The other thing is the career you're selecting. They just had something on TV that you know young men have a tendency to major in engineering and architect and accounting and everything, and the women in college have a tendency to go to the liberal arts. whether that's in social work or education, some nursing, but it's really how you start off in life. And then two is if you're not going to go to college, then you should look at a good trade, um, plumbing, carpentry, electrician. They're making some very good money quickly, and because you need to, in order, particularly if you live in high rent districts like we're living in, you have to have some money, and you know you cannot just kick back and struggle all your life, because if that $100 or 75 or $50 is forcing you to really struggle, you're going to give up real quick. And so you really need to make sure that what you're doing, you're going to be very good at it and you like it, and that you need to, again, pay yourself first before you pay Pico or heating bill or whatever. You pay yourself first and get in. The other thing is, too, with when you're working, is to make sure, a lot of people are not doing this still. Make sure if your firm or your company is having a 401k, you look into it. And if they're matching you, you have to do it, because you're giving up that match and that's free money. And too many people are not getting involved with 401ks. In fact, the average IRA or Roth or 401k is about $14,000. And that's for folks that have been working for 30 or 35 years. And so those are the things that you definitely want to do too. Is if you're working, find out that they have a 401k. If you're in a school teacher or a teacher's aide or something, find out about the 403b. Or if you're down at a city hall or something, find out about the 457. One is because by contributing to it, you're reducing your taxes, because you get an upfront tax deduction, and that's the first step, because you should be saving for retirement, and that's the most important thing, and to get going.
I love it. I was thinking about that whole family meeting, being able to sit down with your children and really talk about finances. I mean, I don't know, Lady Dawn B, if that's something you did. I don't recall ever doing that with my family, with my parents. It was just kind of like you look to mom and dad. Well, for me, I looked to mom and dad to help me, and no one ever really sat down and said, "Here's a career," or "These are the careers that would be good for you." I found myself earlier in my career in that social work field, but I quickly learned they didn't make a lot of money.
Right.
But I didn't have anyone who could tell me these are the fields and this is how much money, where I think now we're maybe a little more equipped. Like I can talk to my kids and say, hey, this is kind of the salary that a person who does this, that you're interested in doing. So I think the conversations about careers are happening. I'm not sure if we're really still, I can say personally, that's something now I'm having more conversations about finances where I did not in the past. What about you, Lady Dawn B?
Well, growing up, my parents actually we did have our version of those conversations. My dad was an electrician, and he worked for transit, like repairing the train tracks and all of that. So, and he was a Navy man, so he was always into something where it was a trade. He was learning how to. He said all those desk and office jobs are wonderful, but when you when you work a trade, that is something that can never be taken away from you, something that you will always be able to find work in, even if it's something that you do on the side. For me, it was, sing. So music was what I wanted to do, my primary. He was like, no, that's your fallback, and I was like, what you mean? I'm passionate about what I want to do. He's like, no. Because if and when that falls through, what other skills do you have? And this is the time you have to hone in on them. He made it very clear to us, I'm the youngest of four, that we have nothing. Our parents had everything, and that we had to go and get our own. Um, this is your house and your home, but you have to go find your own. So he did, him and my mom both taught us about budgeting, how to manage. And they were very honest about it because I believe, they feel like I feel now. I want you to get out my pockets because I would like to enjoy my money myself, so, but it's just the importance of learning money, its value, and how you make it move because it's currency. So it should move, and to be able to have something for yourself. Because he was always like, there's going to be a day and time where you're not going to be able to work, or you don't know if you're going to get sick. You don't know, so you do have to prepare for these things. Did we listen? We heard them, we heard them. But we did have those. And I do engage with my son as much as I can, trying to get him to understand the real value, of the dollar. But, because these days it takes a little bit. So I try to pass that down. But I do want to ask you a question if I could, though, because you were talking about before about breaking those financial cycles and habits, and one of the things I think with our society, I know we talk about struggle love, and we learn struggle finance. So sometimes we come up in a way where we don't even know that is a bad habit, or that it is a cycle that we need to break. We just learn to live from paycheck to paycheck because that's what everybody does, So this education of finance is so important. And I think it is difficult in this time to kind of help our young people change their mindsets, because some of us as adults still don't look at our finances in the way that we should.
Yeah, I agree, and it's also part of who you're hanging out with too. If you're hanging out with folks that are spending money, you'll spend money, and it's a process. I just and the conversation when I was in high school. Uh, my parents moved out further to the suburbs when we were growing up, schools and the whole 9 yards. But there were guys out there, the white guys that I was hanging out with, they were always talking about making money. And who's making it? They would say to me, and it was embarrassing to me, Jim, is that person making any money? I mean, it was crazy. But that's the way they were. And then I went back after a number of years of high school, and those guys they're selling their businesses now, and they have 105, 115 employees. They started law firms and accounting firms and architectural firms, and they're selling it. And they already have their house down in Florida, and they have their house here. And I mean, they were serious. They were intentional, but they were in that environment. They were in that environment where they saw people. In fact, I say it from time to time that when I was in high school, the kids had better cars than the teachers because their parents had money, and it's absolutely crazy. And because again, their parents had money, it just wasn't about paying the bills. They had their father or mother, usually their father, had stock options. He was at Exxon or wherever, and it was amazing. And that was the conversation. And the Wall Street Journal showed up at the doorstep, and not that the kids may or may not have read it, but they knew what the Wall Street Journal was, and so is you have to create an environment that's, as some coaches say, is a winning environment, because the vast majority of people, irrespective of race, do not. 60%, 65% of American people, I may have said last week, If they have an emergency of over $600 or $700, they can't meet it, and then they're borrowing against their 401k, or they're putting it on credit cards. And the problem with credit cards, as you guys know, is that you charge interest, and if the interest is 15% and you borrow, you got to pay back what, $1.15? I mean, or $1.20 if it's 20%. And so that that purchase is really costing you. And
Mhm.
and then the other thing is too is you got to pay it back on time. I had a lot of When I first got into business, I called on a lot of the young doctors and dentists and attorneys. Um, and they were saying, Jim, I'm making all this money, but I can't get a mortgage. And I asked them, well, they kept saying it, kept saying it. And I said, what's your credit score? And they would tell me, and I said, how'd it get so low? They said, well, I said, and so I'll ask them, did you borrow to get in medical school? Yes. Are you paying it back? No. That was, are you borrowing to get, did you borrow to get in law school? Yeah. Are you paying your student loans back? No. And that's tough because now you're in a hole. And so, you have to have good, solid habits, and they have to be a part of you. It's like breathing. Um, and so there's no magic to it, but when you get into a hole and you're digging out, it's tough. And but a lot of us know, but we just don't get there. And but you have to be intentional. It's like, and a couple folks that went to was at Howard with me. He has a couple buddies that are on small boards, and it's a private firm, probably about 2,500. But they're getting, for 4 meetings a year, they're getting $50,000 a meeting, $200,000 on top of Social Security, on top of their 401k. For 4 meetings, $50,000 a meeting. That ain't, because if you're on a J&J board, you're getting about 2 million. So this is a small company, and when you have $200,000 on top of your Social Security and your 401ks and everything, you can breathe a minute. And so, but they were intentional, and they started out on nonprofit boards and worked their way up. And so that's another thing I didn't think of that, and but a lot of folks are, and it's, and that's not even a big company, 1,500 employees. Big to me, but they call that a mom and pop,
Right.
and it makes me laugh. We know mom and pop. There ain't no mom and pop, and but and so it's kind of like what we think is big time. Other folks, no, you ain't there yet, and so it's it's one of those things, and it's an attitude, and it's who you're hanging out with, and who you're chatting with, and a lot of folks, because they have a multifamily home, the reason why they do it because they hear other people talking about it at a party about getting it, having a multifamily home and having a couple folks rent, and that rent pays for your mortgage and all these other things. And but at least that's a conversation that's productive, or can be productive as long as you got good tenants. Okay.
Right.
That's the problem. That's the problem there. And now you're stuck with an illiquid investment. So,
Right.
and so, but but again, you don't even have to do that. If you have the money, as I said, I think last week, you can invest in real estate, because you can get into a mutual fund, or you can get into interval fund, or any of these things where you'll be well diversified across states in this country, and in areas where they're growing, and you don't have to worry about cutting the grass, or repairing the roof, but you're getting that dividend on a monthly basis because it's a real estate investment trust, and they're paying
Okay.
that out. So
So
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, so I wanted us to get, because I know we have quite a few people in the chat talking. I know I saw Reginald. Um, he said aloha,
Mm.
and he says Aloha to the beautiful host. I'm not feeling well today, but I want to give a shout out to the family. Blessings to all. So we thank you, Reginald, for shouting us out even when you're under the weather. We hope you feel better. Anae said, everyone, you can view last week's episode, What's in Your Wallet, Part 1. And I absolutely think if you did not see it, you missed a treat. Go back and watch. And then hit the like button too while you're there. All right. Um, Anae said the thing that she thought was great was drop the zero savings was great. Yep, absolutely agree. Go ahead.
Hi, mommy. Thank you for joining. I'm not gonna scream today. I'm not gonna scream.
Um, Kathy said, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Kathy. Anae said she's writing these points. Sit down and talk as a family about finances. And then look into starting an investment club or clubs, right? And then employer savings plan, 401k, 403b, etc. We know Anae was a great student. Uh,
Hmm. My mom and I was just talking about that investment club. Actually, just was talking about it the other night.
and Ash said, peace and blessings. Welcome, Ash, and thank you. Anae said, protect your intellectual property, copyright, trademark, and patent. Yes. And Mike McDonald, hey, Mike. Mike says, when you're in Rome, you do as Rome do. So I think he was talking about the people that you hang around, to your point. And then we have Miss Tiffany. Hey, Tiff. She says, happy Monday, everybody. Happy Monday, Tiff. Thank you for joining us. All right. So, Lady Dawn B, you want to, we have one more. We have one more. Let's say, hey, Jackie. She said, good evening, all. Great stuff. Keep it coming. All right. We appreciate you. And make sure you're hitting that like button for us, please. And thank you. So, Lady
Mhm.
Dawn, you want to ask the next question?
Sure. So the next question is, now that the whole thing of a family meeting, which is really great. What should first generation wealth builders prioritize financially?
First generation. Well, foundation. If you wanted a home, alrighty. Now, Gen Zers and millennials may be bouncing around in their career. It probably doesn't make sense. It may not make sense for them to focus in on a home. They may want to rent for a while, but home is fundamental. There are tax advantages to it, as you guys know, and it's a nice start. And but before you even do that, you have to get into good habits of making sure that, and this is a problem I deal with. Folks are borrowing against their 401k to get a home and all that stuff, and then you pay it back, and that's fine. I'm not a big fan of it, but if you want to do it, that's fine. Um, but you definitely need to be paying yourself first. Second, and get emergency, and then second, um, purchase. Get into the 401ks or 403bs, saving, or if they don't have it, then you need to create an IRA or a Roth IRA, and but you need to get saving, and and then you have your goals you need to build on your career when you're young. And let's say if you have your undergrad and you think you need to get ahead, you may want to work on your MBA, all right, because you're investing in yourself. You know how managers and business owners invest back in their business. We're our own business, actually. I mean, so the more knowledge you earn and you learn, and or learn and earn. So um, that's important. And then you should, if you're with a nice, big enough company. I know a lot of my clients were at the Bell Labs. The Bell Labs, they paid 100% as long as you got a C or better. I think D you couldn't get paid back, but yeah. And in fact, They even gave a number of students time off, and they would go to Howard for graduate school, and they'd pay their salary, and and not only pay their salary, pay for college, and the only thing you had to do was use your salary to rent in that area and everything. And then you came back a year later, hopefully with that degree, because if you didn't, you were in trouble. But if you came back and you did your job and didn't putz around, uh, boy, so you didn't even miss a beat. You got your salary and you got the education. And so that those type of things, and it just wasn't Bell Labs. There were a lot of places that were doing that. And so you had those are the fundamentals. Nothing crazy about it. You just have to be about it and get going and make sure you're focused in on improving each and every day.
Okay.
Just
Okay. Thank you. Um, we have some chat. We have some people in the chat, so we'll let's. So Jaquan said, "Grace and mercy, everyone. Thank you for joining us." My sister in love said, "Great information. Thank you." And Kevin Smith said, "This is actually my first podcast, very relevant to a family conversation I was having before logging in." So, see, make sure for those of you who are just joining us, hit that like button for us, please, and thank you, as we want other people to get this good information and we want you to share as well. Um, Jacqueline said, "Good evening, all. Great stuff. Keep it coming." Thank you, Jackie. So here's a question. As we were talking about, people buying homes, you talked about people borrowing from their 401k or 403bs to buy homes. I want to shift into the tax
Yes.
aspect of it. So, what are common tax mistakes people make?
Oh, not saving receipts. Um,
Mm,
okay, so that's important because if you get audited, you're in trouble. Now, the IRS doesn't. They only audit a few tax returns, as you guys know, a year. But just so they didn't catch up with you for 2 years, they can catch up with you. Um, and the other tax mistake people are making is they borrow, take money out of their IRA and then don't put it back within 60 days. See, those 60 days come,
mm,
and so that's an issue. And so now, if you made $50,000 and you took out $20,000 out of an IRA and you don't pay it back, now you make $70,000. Okay, and so that's how bad that is. And you give up that penalty before 59 and a half too. So that's an automatic 10%. So that's bad. Um, and now the other thing is, as you know, we're in the Northeast, and that's SALT, state and local taxes. That hit us because we were being able to deduct our state and local taxes plus our mortgage and real estate taxes and everything else. And that was capped. Didn't take it away completely, but they capped it. And so those are the type of things. In fact, for my clients that are well heeled, um, I can put them in tax shelters. One of them is oil and gas, and and you can write that program off because when they're drilling for oil or gas, that's a business expense, and because you're one of the limited partners in it or a partner in it, you can tax deduct those oil and drilling costs. There's also real estate deals. In fact, in the past, there were historical properties that were being renovated, and Uncle Sam wanted the American people, at least the folks that cared about it, to be able to invest in that, and they gave them tax incentives to do those type of things. So there's a lot of ways, and then there's also what they call donor advised funds, where they're charitable giving, and if you You usually can open up with $5,000 or $10,000, and you can write that off, and you have plan giving, what they call plan giving. You don't have to do it in that first year. You can decide to give to a church, or you can decide to give to your college or whatever. Um, and so donor advised funds also take Uncle Sam out. That's why there's so many ways that I can help people reduce their taxes. That's why when I hear folks with a lot of money saying I'm paying high taxes, because you just don't have the right advice. Because if you have a good accountant and you have a financial advisor that knows about the products and services out there, you can reduce your taxes down pretty good. And so, but it means planning. The other thing is that they make a mistake. They buy a building, they work in, let's say, a doctor or dentist, and then they get ready to retire and they sell that building. And and you're in trouble unless you can put that building in 1031 exchange, because that'll allow you to delay your cap gains. And
Mm.
and so that's another thing that folks are making mistakes on. And because you have a recapture in taxes, because you got those tax breaks all along, and then at the end when you sell it, um, you got to watch out for the recapture. And so, what could they recap those taxes that they've or those tax breaks that you were previously given? So it can be complicated, um, and the more successful you are, the more complicated your tax situation is. And so, but it's a
Okay.
lot of ways that you can do it.
So that's why we need a James Hunt in our lives so that they could help us with the things that we can accumulate wealth or we can accumulate things, but we need someone who is the subject matter expert in an area so that we can become better with what we have. Because I think, to your point, many times we accumulate things, but then it's like, now what?
Right.
I've done this, now what? I don't know what to do. And then we make mistakes on the other end, which says to many people, well, forget it. I tried it. It did not work. But I think a big part of it is we did not get the financial advice needed in order for us to be successful, in order for us to take it to the next level. So thank you so much for that. Um, Lady Dawn, is there something you want to say, comment?
I'm just taking notes. I'm taking notes and taking notes at that part. That's good stuff.
Well, and Nate has something to say. You see her.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
said, "Everyone, please gently press the like button when you have a moment. Thank you." So that's all. That's all we need you to do. If you please just hit that like button for us, we say please and thank you. Um, so I want to kind of continue with that and think about businesses, because you
Mhm.
have some people who, you're earning X amount of dollars, and now you hear you should have an LLC, or you should have an S corp, or you should have, I don't know, open up a corporation. First of all, what would you say to someone? Should they open up an LLC? Right? They're generating this income. Should they have an LLC? Should they have an S corp? What should they do?
Well, that's a tax question, really, obviously, and you want to sit down with your accountant and let them know, he or she know what you're trying to accomplish, and everything. That's Let's look at each one of us as our own personal CEO. Who's on your board? You need to have a financial advisor on your board. You need to have an accountant on your board. You probably need an attorney on your board. And your attorney handles the legal things. Your accountant handles the tax, and your financial advisor handles the financial things. And but make sure that as a that you keeping everybody in their lane, though. You don't want attorneys giving investment advice, and accountants giving insurance advice and all that. So you don't want them switching lanes. Everybody's got an opinion, but no, you need to have a board. And one of the things that frustrates a professional is when you make a mistake and you didn't run it by them, and now then you come in and they're supposed to dig you out. Okay. No, 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 no,
You
no.
sound like you're talking from experience, Mr. Hunt.
Yeah, you know, I'm telling you, because it's a prime example, a dentist or a doctor or whoever who sells that building, and because you got to you got 45 days before you can do a lot of these things and things like that. You got to put it in place. You can't come back. You can't come the night before, and all that stuff. But you want to sit down with your accountant, and they will tell you whether you should be an LLC, and whether you should be incorporated or in subchapter S, and there are advantages and disadvantages to each and every one of them. And the issue is which advantages do you have? And then it's like that Ben Franklin thing. You put all the advantages, and then you write all the things you shouldn't do. Now, which side has more advantages, and which side has the less problems? But yeah, you need to put your team together, and then you don't have to you accept the advice. I mean, you can listen to the advice, and you can still say, "Hey, but I still want to do it this way." That's fine. but when you don't, and you got to dig out, now we're back in the hole. And the other thing too, the average money. Now I'm gonna tell you, life insurance proceeds, they go to a named beneficiary, income tax free.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Prudential did a study, and other folks that followed up. They said within 18 months, 100% of that money's gone. Okay, now, and so, but that money comes at you income tax free. And the other thing is when you're inheriting so if your husband dies or your wife dies or someone in the family, and you're inheriting that IRA or that 401k, you have to, particularly if you're not a spouse, then once you inherit that money needs to come out over, I think, a 10-year period. And so you're going to pay taxes on that money eventually, but you can delay at least that for 10 years. And but taxes are everywhere and almost every move you make. And to get a good accountant, and don't just talk to your accountant 2 weeks before you hand them all your stuff. An accountant you should be conversing with probably at least quarterly to make sure, particularly if you're a business owner, you really should. Excuse me. You really should, because they give very good advice. And particularly a small business, because a lot of times they can't afford a chief financial officer, which is usually an accountant or a finance major. So it's outside counsel, and that costs money. And but businesses are good if they're profitable, and most businesses are not profitable. Turnover rate it can kill a family, because you were working, bringing a regular paycheck in there, and it takes a business usually 5 to 7 years, as you guys know, to be profitable. We didn't say get ahead, just to be profitable. All right. And so that's a tough thing. And then you're working 18, 20 hours a day, even weekends. So you don't get a chance to see your kids play football or lacrosse, and a lot of times you're working and you're not even getting to church because you're working on Sundays. So it's a real sacrifice if you are a business owner. And as Dr. Elaine, you talked about earlier about a divorce, right? 83% of folks that get divorced is not because someone ran around on somebody or someone's doing drugs or even beaten or someone, as bad as all those things are, it is finances. 83%. And that's a high number. And in fact, what you probably need to do before you get married is find out each other's credit score, right? Find out what each other has in the bank. Find out what each other has in a 401k. In fact, my cousin, God bless her, her first husband was killed. And so she eventually got remarried and didn't know that her new husband owed Uncle Sam back 2 or 3 years of taxes. So they get together, organize all their stuff, right? And joint accounts and everything. And they come and they snatch that money. She had no clue.
Are they
And
still married? No.
no, they did. Yeah, that was unbelievable. And they're not. And so it's a shame. But finances are so important. You really need to sit down and chat about them with folks that eventually you're looking to have a long term and hopefully permanent relationship.
That's good.
Good stuff.
I think you're right. Um, Janice said all good information. And this is Mike. Hey, Mike. He says, Brother Jim, keep serving those financial planner meals.
Thank you.
And then Mike McDonald says, what's your opinion on IULs?
Okay. That's individual universal life insurance. And they're good. They're good for folks that can afford to save that kind of money in them. As you know, the money grows, Michael. The money grows tax deferred, and one of the advantages of cash value life insurance is when you take that money out in retirement, it comes to you tax free. And now you're borrowing it to get that tax free, and so hopefully you have enough built up in there. And so if it was a $500,000 life insurance and you borrowed 200,000 when you die, the family or your spouse will get the $300,000 income tax free. But it's a supplement to saving, and that I think is what I would call an enforced savings plan, because I don't think cash value life insurance is an investment, but it's a forced savings plan, and the value goes up each and every year. And for folks that are scared of the stock market, that may be a good thing. The other thing too is if you're a professional and you get sued, the cash value life insurance, they can't get that. And as you guys know, with the OJ trial, right? OJ had cash value life insurance, and when he lost his civil case, they couldn't get it. And also with your pension, they can't get your pension. It's creditor protected. That's another reason why you want to save in 401ks and 403bs and 457s. They're creditor protected. And so, but yeah, I am aware of it, and I see more and more folks doing good things with it. But yeah, it's and as you know, there's basically three things in life can happen to you, right? You live too long, you die too soon, or you become disabled. And the good news about life insurance is a self-completing retirement plan. It's because if you become disabled after 6 months, the insurance company will waive that premium and pay it for you, and go back and pay for that 6 months that you were continuously disabled, and you got that growing cash value. And so yeah, it's one of those things that is a foundational piece of a person's financial plan, and it's what we call defensive planning. Just like disability insurance is people at work and money at work, right? and we're all people at work. And rich folks like Bill Gates, that's money at work. All right, they have so much money, their money's making money, and that's where we really all want to get to. When we're sleeping, our money's making money, and so we're not always hustling and going from uh, paycheck to paycheck, even though we're saving and doing all the other things because we have an investment portfolio that's paying us dividends. And in fact, Warren Buffett, um, he owns a lot of stock at Coca Cola. He makes more money in dividends from the Coca Cola stock than the CEO makes in his total compensation, not just his salary. And so, because again, why? When you own stock, you're a part owner of that company. And the more shares you have, the bigger your pot of gold is. And so a lot of folks want to go into business self. Yeah, you can go into business self and and invest in stocks and still continue with your career because you're getting the profits from those other firms. And so there's a lot of ways. That's why I said you can buy real estate and not have to own it in that sense. You can own the companies that are managing that real estate for you. And that's probably better for most folks because most folks don't do it. In fact, you guys probably read where Donald Trump, with the $400 million he inherited from his father, if he just put it in the S&P 500 index and left it alone, he'd be richer than he is today. But he did. He farted around and how talk about bad businessman. How the heck do you lose money on a casino? The house always win, and he didn't even win. So you know, so yeah, and that's why you can be too cute by half. So um, that's part of the problem.
Wow. So, and they put the disclaimer, What's in Your Wallet series is an informational and educational purposes only. Um, we do say, as we begin to wrap up this show tonight, again, he's Dr. Hunt to me. So he just got an honorary doctorate from Mondays Beyond the Mic. Okay. With that being said, we want people, how could they reach out to you? We've been putting information across the screen as well, but tell them, how can they reach out? How can they contact you?
Yes, one you can call me. My cell phone is 973-714-3508, or my email is james.hunt at DFA, David Frank Alfred Investments with an S on the end.com.
Okay, and we're going to make sure we put this information in the chat so that people can go back if they're watching this, if they watch it later, make sure you hit the like button, and they can get more information about this. I want to say to you, as bravo, thank you. You are always welcome on Mondays Beyond the Mic because you have shared such rich jewels and wisdom with us. And now it is our job to take the responsibility with the wisdom that you've shared and the knowledge that you've shared, and what's next. What's next for us? Because a lot of times people can say, oh, I'm retired, I'm good. But I always think there's always that next level of you. What does that next level of you look like? And how can you get more information about what to do? Because you may have some money just sitting around, but is it working for you? You know, um, yes, I'm about to bring my whole family to you, and we're gonna just sit down and get a new life. So I'm still looking for a roommate. I'm putting that in you got to go back and watch the other show to understand. I'm still looking for a roommate, and I that four-legged stool and that learn, earn, return. Tiffany said, "Thank you so much for this wealth, and literally and figuratively, this wealth of information." So we liked it. I don't know, Lady Dawn B, anything you want to say before we wrap up?
I loved it all. Again, between the last week and this week, we can no longer say that we don't know. So now we are responsible. The only thing that I didn't like is the three life choice options that we have, which is either live too long, die too soon. Like there got to be a fourth choice somewhere in there. There's something. I don't know what it is. But other than that,
Thank you. That because I said live too long. How you live too long? Like Lord, I got but okay, which means you outlived the
You're,
fact that I got the concept, but I'm like Lord, I want to see some centennials. So
yeah,
I need my money to work long term.
yes.
Um,
Mm.
that was
I'm
it.
sorry. So Anae, I'm sorry. Anae did put up the information. If we can just put that back up again, for and I'm calling him Dr. James Hunt, 973-714-3508. And his email is his email james.hunt at DFA Investments, S on the N.com. So again, we say thank you for a wonderful evening, a wonderful 2 Mondays of information. And so much so that I'm like, we're just going to rock out this entire month just talking about investing. Because I was thinking about as this school year, we're usually gearing up. Most people are school shopping and getting ready for their children to go into the next level. Why aren't we preparing our money for the next level? Why aren't we preparing our lives? And the same way we could buy book bags and things that we keep buying, we need to let our money go on repeat. So thank you. So the month of August is dedicated to financial health and wealth. So hopefully we'll see you next week. We say thank you for joining us and have a wonderful night. And make sure you call Dr. James
Hunt.
Hunt. All right. And we have some
Days
people in
beyond
the,
my extension.
right. And we have some people saying thank you for this information. So William Smith, he said, thank you. Jacqueline said, have your children make investments early. Absolutely. Um, Tamar, she said, that's a great idea. Tamara, I'm sorry. And yeah, this has been awesome. I am honored and I'm just honored. Thank you for your yes. And Kim says, that was great. Thank you so much. And they still talking. And Jackie said, it's never too soon for younger working adults. Absolutely. Absolutely. Sister in love, she said, thank you. So this has been heard and we know it's going to be heard around the world. But again, we say thank you so much for this information that you have given us. You are a jewel and a gem, and we do not take it lightly on Mondays Beyond the Mic, because you could have been anywhere else. And this goes along for our Dr. Jim and our viewers. You could have been anywhere else on tonight, but you chose to hang out with us on Mondays Beyond the Mic. And for that, I sincerely appreciate you all and love you. And we say, have a wonderful night. Good night, everyone.
Nice.
Thank you.
So we have to get those comments up.